Let's go ahead and bring in former UAW spokesperson Brian Rothenberg. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon.
Thanks for having me, Rochelle.
I want to start by asking you, what does Shawn Fain's announcement mean to the picketers and union members? Obviously, you have a very up-close perspective on this.
Well, as I've said repeatedly, that you never have as much power as the threat to strike, because once you strike, there's a lot of uh, uh, pressure also on the workforce and my fellow UAW members. Well, if you unpack what he did today, he didn't take a nuclear strike. I mean, he is obviously impacting the companies, and obviously it was good news that Stellantis made some headway, but he didn't go after cash cows like the Ram 1500. He didn't go after the F-150s of the world, which says to me that they are having some discussions. They are having some productive efforts at the table, but they're not there yet, and it's going to last a while.
In your opinion, how bad do you think things are with GM right now? Because the last time we heard from Shawn Fain, Ford was kind of exempt from his wrath, if you will. This time, Stellantis seems to be more in good graces. Are things with GM just at a standhold?
Well, I would say, obviously, there's work to be done, but they also spared. I noticed he specifically said they weren't taking out the stamping plant, which would have impacted more than just the two models being made up there in Lansing. So I think there is room here, but it also preserves some levers for him if President Fain needs to pull those levers in the future to put more pressure on the companies. It's hard to read. This is a different style of bargaining where you have all three companies at the table at the same time. But what I do know is there's cash on the table. The companies have record profits. This is resolvable, and we will have an employment contract for the members to vote on at some point.
You said a different style of bargaining. What do you make of Fain's approach thus far? And also, what's your perception of how those on strike feel about the approach? It seems he has a lot of support from an outside perspective.
Well, he does. I mean, there's a couple factors that are going to play into this in the next week as these go on. From a public relations standpoint, this will be big news in Detroit and maybe Toledo and Kokomo. But as the government shutdown starts to attract a lot of attention, you're going to see a lot of these national satellite trucks pack up and go. It's going to get into the dog days of negotiating. I do think that the public negotiating has kind of backed off a little bit. And instead, what President Fain is doing is confirming those things he's gotten locked in, which is a smart thing to do because it's at the table and you've locked them in, and at least built that expectation there. But any contract you have, it's the devil's going to be in the detail over product placement 2, 3, 4 years out. And I think at the table, he's trying to find that sweet spot where you negotiate as much as you can from these record profits, but you protect jobs by making sure you have those products in the plants.
Former UAW spokesperson Brian Rothenberg, thank you. We always appreciate your perspective.
Thank you, Rochelle.